Welcome to AI for You. Our use case this week is about using AI to decode confusing email threads and extract the actionable next steps. So, if you work in higher ed, you know the challenge. Long email chains with vague subject lines or one word replies like interesting or thoughts, and then buried action items that might involve you but aren't clearly called out. So if you're using a large language model that's already directly connected to your email, you can just use the prompt. Otherwise, start by copying the entire email thread, pasting it into your LLM model of choice, and then using the prompt to ask the AI to analyze that thread and provide a summary that include things like what's being asked, what specific steps need to be taken, and who owns those steps, where is clarity needed, and then what are the timelines and deadlines and recommended actions for you specifically. This can be particularly valuable when you're added to a thread mid-conversation, or if you're returning from vacation to, inbox chaos, or if you're preparing for a meeting and you need to understand the current state of multiple different initiatives. The key here is using AI as a clarity tool rather than a response generator. You're not asking it to write your reply, you're using it to understand what's actually happening so that you can respond thoughtfully. As always, be mindful of confidential information. Use your institution's approved AI tools with data protection and avoid pasting emails containing any student information or personnel matters or restricted content into these public AI systems. Today, we are joined by Rebecca Stapley, the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Rochester Institute of Technology's College of Health Sciences and Technology and School of Individualized Study. I know this is going to be a very interesting conversation. Let's jump right in. All right, Rebecca. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a thrill to be here.
So tell me a little bit about how you are using AI and integrating it into your work at RIT.
So, in my role at RIT, I span really three different departments. So, I oversee marketing for our College of Health Sciences and Technology, our School of Individualized Study, and I also work very closely and report to university marketing. And AI has been incredible to help me build efficiencies that allow me to focus on what I think is most important in my job and certainly what I value most, which is connection, creativity, and collaboration. And kind of my daily flow and kind of how I'm integrating it into my work regularly, I'd say falls into a big one: email clarity and context. I'm not sure if it's just me in my role, but I often get super long email threads with maybe context that's one word. And it could be like interesting or fun. And so using AI to summarize, help get to the bottom line, what is being asked here? What are the next steps? Who's responsible? Where is clarity needed? That has really cut down a lot of time for me, like freed up time. And I think helps me stay accurate and in tune with things that could get lost within big, long email chains. Another thing that I love it for is audience alignment. There's certain audiences that I feel like I know fairly well. It's, not my first rodeo. Our admissions audiences, even our alumni. I've worked in this industry a long time, so you get a good understanding. However, secondary audiences, for instance, through the College of Health Sciences and Technology, thinking about even what is the messaging when our faculty go into clinical sites and they're talking to, at this point, like healthcare executives and professionals. That is a world, Brian, that I do not understand or speak. And so I do find the audience insights and alignment there for some of those secondary audiences is also incredibly helpful.
A great theme that keeps coming up on the show over and over is how using AI provides you opportunities to become more human and to better understand your audiences and deliver what they're really asking without having to spend a lot of time going through, confusing email chains and trying to figure out what people are really asking. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, and I think it rings true for me as well.
So what was your AI journey like? Were you an early adopter? Were you hesitant to get started? Where did you fall in the spectrum?
Yeah, I was a little hesitant. I wish I could say that I just jumped right in, but I think I was aware and saw both the pros, the cons, the unknowns of it all. And it took me a little while. So it really wasn't until I think winter of 2023 where I really jumped in. And I, at that point, really realize that this is just it's a core competency, and both for me personally and for my institution and in my work, not having this literacy and competency and understanding this could put us at a disadvantage. And so I just decided to stop theorizing, stop reading, and just get in there and start playing around. And as with many things in life, that is where the true learning started to begin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just going in and experimenting and exploring, I mean, the technology changes so fast and it's so new and the capabilities are so varied that until you go in and start just exploring, you're never going to figure out all the different ways that it can be used. So
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny. I'm a yoga teacher outside of my work in higher ed, and I think about it kind of as yoga as a practice, and you can read about the poses, you can know what they are, but until you actually build it into your life as a practice or a regular ritual, that is where you really start to understand and experience it. So I've kind of taken that into my AI learning. And as you say, it is changing sometimes overnight. So it's good to remain flexible.
I love that analogy and being flexible and, experiencing pain when you first do things. It's a learning process and constantly iterating as, we understand it better and the technology improves and changes. It's a very interesting time to be in this field and have the opportunities to use these tools so much within our work. A lot of different institutions are at all different stages of their AI integration journey. Some, really haven't even started the process yet. What do you think were the biggest challenges that you faced at RIT or that higher ed faces as an industry regarding AI integration?
At RIT, I got really lucky and I feel very fortunate. Being that innovation and technology are at the heart of our identity as an institution, I feel like we were ahead of the learning curve, and that it was not only accepted that we're trying to learn and grow and understand these emerging technologies, but we've also been supported with really great tools and guidance. So everyone with an RIT login, we have access to data protected AI tools like Gemini, even Zoom, and then Copilot. So a lot of really great tools, and then resources about, what you can do, how to use it. We are also we have dedicated groups on campus, multiple groups who are really thinking about guidelines and policy, and also understanding that that is dynamic. It's not static. So, that is going to be a continuous evolution, but it's a very supportive environment. And even early on, when I joined the team, had, discussions with my brilliant supervisor, and she was like, absolutely be learning, using it. Here's how I use it. Or we'll even be brainstorming and hit a wall. And she's like, you know what? Let's bring AI into the conversation. And I get a window into the brilliant ways that she is using it that maybe I'm not. And I just love that there's not gatekeeping, and that there's the support and understanding and also trusting us to be responsible and informed about how we're using it.
Yeah, and I think that education and awareness is critical to, informing people and giving them the flexibility to I mean, people are gonna go out and fail with these tools. That's what they need to do to learn them. But having those groups, having those conversations where you can talk about different use cases, different ways people prompt differently, different ways people communicate with these tools. I think that's so critical to really getting a full look at all the opportunities that we have and the capabilities that these tools present.
And even just recently, we had our marketing and communications retreat, and we even did a lightning round where everyone who wanted to could have one slide and just share how they're using AI daily or in their work. And it was so incredible to see how individual it is and how much your own personality and creativity and approach to really affect like how you're using it and the output that you're getting. So I loved that and I'd love to see more of that.
Yeah, that is so smart. A lot of organizations I work with, I encourage these sort of AI hangouts and especially getting them to be like cross department because you learn things from the way they're using them in academics that you might not have ever thought about using them that way in marketing or admissions. So, such a fantastic way to really create those conversations across all the different groups. And we know that, higher ed can sometimes be siloed. So, it's a great way to get those conversations going.
Absolutely.
So what advice do you have for organizations who haven't started integrating this yet, either because they don't have budget, don't have resources, don't have access? What can they do to start exploring these tools?
I think my advice is really just to, in any degree that you can, whether that is in your personal life or, and also just have difficult conversations, bring up this topic. It is not going away. And there are examples now of other institutions, both creating guidelines, figuring out how this fits in and supplements our work. So I think keep conversation open, have the difficult conversations and be willing to learn as you go. Again, like I don't think anyone can sit here saying like we have it figured out. We know exactly how to do this. So like let that make you feel more confident and comfortable. We're all in the same boat here and then to whatever degree you can really put it into practice and just try and experiment and see how the different prompts that you make can have a difference on what you're getting. And I also really think that with AI, there is an element of collaboration and partnership there with the technology. It is very rare that I'll put in even a really thoughtful prompt and have something immediately that I'm like, that's darn good. I'm going to use that as is. It is a back and forth. It is, at least for me, conversational. And, it's kind of as humans in yoga teacher training, they taught us this we default to the path of least resistance. So that means that if you're in a pose like side angle, our default is to just like kind of be lazy, like dump your weight into your elbow and not use your core or your muscles. And to some extent, AI is built for efficiency. It's not always going to just give you brilliance. And so, in the same way that a yoga teacher prompts poses or gives cues, that is the same thing that we're doing in these conversations. And then you can really, activate those new muscles, engage in a new way, have a fully different experience of this technology. So I think that you really just have to embrace it, not be afraid of failure, and learn and be a partner with these AI tools and see what you get.
Yeah, and the point you made about using it in your personal life. I mean, even if you're blocked from using it at work, there's so much you can do with it personally to really explore the capabilities and start understanding the fundamentals of these tools. And they can save you so much time in your personal life as well. It's great.
They can. It is amazing. And it's so funny. My mom actually has surprised me in the ways that she's using it in her personal life for perfecting recipes or changing grams to like different units of measure in her baking. And I just think that the use cases are really endless. And I really enjoy it. And I love hearing how other folks are using it too. So if nothing else, just like say you're making dinner, I would say just go look at what you have in the fridge, tell AI and say, hey, what's a great meal? Or if you have any dietary restrictions, I'm gluten free. Hey, that's an easy way. That could be your entry point. It doesn't really matter what it is. It can be small and approachable, but just get started and, try to have some fun with it. Don't take yourself too seriously and just be curious.
You had mentioned, that you love different use cases. What are some of the more interesting use cases you've seen or heard of in higher ed?
One of the ones that came out of the lightning round that I think is really interesting is how it's helped or is helping some photo teams with accessibility and being able to like mass batch alt text for images. Now, of course, it's a partner. So, there are humans checking this work, working alongside it. But I think that is really incredible. I think also for higher ed, especially institutions who are doing a lot of research and gathering data points about our audience, our messaging, those who've invested heavily in, thinking about brand messaging and our voice, even the energy of our content. And just, we've done a lot of work even to produce what we call the RIT copy playbook that really gives different kind of language guidelines unique to some of our different audiences, like current students versus prospective students versus alumni. And I think a great use case for institutions is to really make the most of that time and those investments and then use AI to complement it. One of the things that I have is a creative copywriter, and I have in that this copy playbook. I have, prompts on how to use it, about our language. I also have for my different colleges, the College of Health Sciences, our messaging guide is very different than the messaging for the School of Individualized Study. And I use that to help me once I have, already come up with an idea, I'm in ideation, I'm writing, then I go back to that and it's like a gut check where it's right there. And sometimes it really takes something from kind of to like really pretty incredible. And then other times, maybe it takes a little bit more work, but I think it is helping me make the most of the investments in time and resources to make sure that I really am thinking and implementing in a way that brings all that to life.
100%. And I think, once you start creating like that repository of tools, that toolbox of different things that you can use, you really understand your workflows better and you're able to start looking at, how to segment out the brainstorming part and then what you can do for the writing part and the brand voice and then your alt tags and all the different parts and pieces that string together. And I think the next stage when we get into these agentic solutions, I think having those processes already documented and broken out is going to be a huge step forward. It's going to be an advance that, a lot of other teams aren't going to have, and they're going to be kind of scrambling to get to that point. So it's great that you're already moving forward on that path. It's awesome. So we know that higher ed is going to go through changes, right? We're going to have to adapt and evolve as these tools evolve. What is your advice to other marketers or admissions professionals out there on what they can do to start preparing for the impact that AI is going to have on their jobs?
So it's two pieces. And I think one big example of a challenge that we're facing as higher ed marketers is AI overviews. So speaking of overnight, we noticed that there is now AI generated summaries between, our search and our websites, which are quite important for us. So things like that, these challenges will emerge. But one piece of advice or one thing that keeps my feet grounded in this conversation is that some of the fundamentals of marketing do not change. Knowing your audience really well, knowing your goals, knowing your identity, your values as an institution, that is just going to become more and more important. And even with the AI overviews, it's very similar to almost SEO principles. And, well, are we really structuring our content around what our audience is searching for, what they're asking for? Do we have the relevant context? Let's not make assumptions that they know everything. Are we not just, sharing about why our biomedical sciences is the greatest and the best, but what is biomedical sciences? How is it different from just biology? And, really, really getting deep, which is just great practice for knowing your audience and knowing your end user. And those principles. So I would say in my yoga teaching, and in my marketing, I love the basics. I love the fundamentals. It never gets old. It's never not important. Really make sure you're operating from that center, that anchor. And, I think you're going to do pretty well.
So we know that this technology is changing and evolving very quickly. Where do you think things are going to go in the next year or two, 2026, 2027?
It is so hard to say, Brian. This is because it is changing so quickly and overnight. But I think we can expect to see things become just more sophisticated, more integrated into, like third-party apps and services that we're using. I feel like every single like digital like tech stack or vendor now has an AI option. So, understanding, well, which ones are we as an institution or like most likely to use? Like, because you can't invest energy and resources everywhere. So I think there's that. And then I think it's really being informed. And, where I will be completely honest, I have qualms about the environmental impact of AI, very real. Privacy. We are really putting a lot of trust in this technology and the companies that represent it. Fakes and the like photos and the AI generated content that is inaccurate or fake, that's something that I'm still grappling with. And I felt like at the beginning of AI, you could even now like, oh, I can tell that that's an AI generated image, but it's getting harder and harder. And we are just bombarded with content, imagery, and messaging. So being able to keep what is real and true, that is going to be something that we're all going to have to care deeply about.
It's really so critical that, like you mentioned earlier, having that expertise and knowledge about your audience and your goals so that you're putting the right information in. And then, really, at the other end, being able to look at that and judge whether or not it's quality, whether it's accurate, whether it's something that's relevant to your audience that you want to take responsibility for putting out there. Because that's one thing that AI can't do is take responsibility for what gets posted, for your audiences. And I think we're seeing a lot of questionable content that's going out there, either poor quality content or obviously AI generated content that is causing a lot of trust issues, especially, digitally. And I think as higher ed institutions, we have a obligation to really focus on being transparent and being trustworthy and making sure that our audiences are aware when and how we're using these tools. So, and how we're
Absolutely.
protecting them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more.
The question I always finish with is, what specific AI use cases are most useful to you in your job, either personally or professionally?
I can give you both, Brian. I think I shared a little bit about email clarity summaries, especially when there's lack of context. I really like it for, again, brand consistency, our voice, and leveraging that. I also love it for newsletter support. So I am going to shout out Ashley Budd and Dave Kibbles, who actually created, it's probably been mentioned here a million times, an amazing companion to their book, Mailed It, which is a GPT for newsletters. And honestly, like I'll write something that I think is great, then it'll ask these great questions and it always comes out better. So I, also fully recommend using higher end developed tools to make our work better, whether that is an email workflow or written content. I think that's really fun and something I like to do a lot. And along with that, subject lines, I think AI has really helped me brainstorm and even be able to A/B test with some different subject lines in my emails. So I love it for that. My personal life, I guess some of the fun stuff. And I think of kind of two ways that I use it that I don't know if everyone is. So I wanted to share this today. And one was we adopted a third dog this summer. If that sounds like a lot of dogs, you are correct. There are two sleeping in my office right now. But when we introduced our new dog, Primrose, this summer, she hit it off right away with my older dog. But I have a reactive dog, and he was less of a fan. So as we were integrating them very mindfully, and we did work with a trusted trainer as well, but there would just be situations that come up, like my dog is growling at the crate where my new dog is hanging out. like, what do I do here? What is this normal? And AI was awesome. It had some really great contextual, like training things, exercises for me to do with both dogs together, apart. It also helped me to kind of understand the way they were communicating, where in my mind, I thought that growl was, I don't like this new dog and I'm never going to like her. And then I realized, no, they're just communicating their boundaries. And he's saying, I just don't know this new dog yet. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable. So it's really helped me navigate integrating a new dog into our household. And then I am also a big fan of sustainable clothing. So, like vintage pieces or pre owned clothing. I just got this new vintage sweater. I'm so excited. What can I style with it? And I thought it looked great. I felt great. And, it's just even now, I'm surprising myself with kind of new, different ways to use AI. And I hope it's a little lighthearted, but just some of the ways that I've enjoyed using it recently.
It just really, signifies the point that you made, the fact that everybody uses these tools differently. There's different reasons that we use them, but the applications and those like ideas about how you're integrating them cross over so many different areas. It's wonderful. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing your time and insights with the audience. If our audience wants to stay in touch with you, where's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best place. I'm there. Rebecca Stapley. You'll find me. I'm the one that works at RIT. I would love to connect. That's kind of my main form of social media professionally. Of course, on the RIT website, you can also find my email there. But I'm just happy to connect, particularly with other higher ed marketers and nonprofit marketers. I really love conversations like this. And I'm so grateful for this community, Brian, and what you've created to bring us all together.
Well, thanks so much, Rebecca. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
I thought Rebecca's yoga metaphor offers a refreshing framework for approaching AI tool use. You can read about poses, but not fully understand them, the same way that AI literacy comes from consistent hands-on engagement rather than theoretical study. Her emphasis on flexibility calls out the adaptability required in this rapidly evolving landscape. Her back and forth dialogue approach with the tools kind of challenges the misconception that perfect prompts yield perfect outputs. You activate new muscles in yoga, and we must actively guide AI tools beyond just this efficiency optimized defaults so that we can achieve really excellent innovation results. Rebecca's strategy for leveraging their institutional copy playbook demonstrates how institutions can maximize existing investments by integrating established brand resources into AI workflows. Rather than starting from scratch, she uses AI as a brand consistency checker and enhancement tool, taking good work and making it great while staying true to the institutional voice. The idea of the lightning round at RIT at their marketing retreat really showcases like best practices for cross-departmental learning. By creating that space for staff to share individual AI applications, institutions can accelerate adoption while honoring that personal nature of how everybody integrates these tools differently in their work. Her reminder that marketing fundamentals haven't changed helps ground us in this age of massive change. Knowing your audience, understanding your institutional values, and structuring your content around your user really remains the key. Even more so now that, AI overviews sit between search and websites. We have to make sure that we're really providing our audience value. And I love the personal applications that she shared, like the clothing styling, really kind of illustrates that low stakes experimentation that builds competence and confidence. These sorts of use cases really help develop our prompting skills that translate directly to professional applications. Please reach out to me with unique ways that you're integrating AI into your professional and personal lives. And as always, blue skies and keep creating.